Welcome back, NRL fantasy coaches for buy, hold, sell. Round 3. It was an epic round 2. We got Tommy Talau in the house times 2, mate. Welcome back, Biz. How was your week this week?
Mate, honestly going terribly. I'm out like 45,000 this week. Didn't have a good week, but I'm actually pretty confident in my team. I've got a few guys that I'll have to trade out, but overall, I just need my guns like Grant, Cleary, and Ponga, etc., to perform. But otherwise, yeah, feeling good. Hopefully, this is the week to turn around. How about you, Longy?
Man, return to the norm. I'm sure you'll be bouncing back soon, but until then, I'm rubbing it in. I was about 42K after round 1. I've flown into 8K last week, so
Love
I'm
it.
moving in the right direction, about 850 last week, and I'm pretty happy with the roster. Grabbing Terrell May and Lockie Galvin last week was a good move. But look, let's jump right into this because look, Teamless Tuesday has thrown some big curveballs at us, and obviously the legend Tommy Talau scored a try last week. Did pick up an injury. He's on the extended bench
Every time
now.
you say his name, I want to throw that pose.
The big bad Talau. But look, this week's Talau, the guy we're going to take the piss out of a bit, is Zach Hosking, named on the bench in the 16 jersey. I'm going to skip right to the end of this. I personally think that you should hold Hosking if you have Hosking for 1 week. And there's two reasons for that. One, his break even is 4 points, so he won't lose your money. And two, maybe he re-earns that starting spot. Maybe Ricky Stewart's playing silly buggers. Maybe he gets in on game day. What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, I feel so bad for Hosking. I swear everywhere he plays really well, and he always gets benched or dropped or moved around. Every time I watch him play, I think this is all the hallmarks of a potential Origin back row, and then boom, bench. But look, he's been their best player over 2 rounds, so to see him get dropped is very strange. Obviously, Whitehead is their captain, so he had to come in. So yeah, it's tough for him, but definitely hold him. I think. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a late swap and he's starting. But even if he is bench, yeah, you got to at least watch a week.
Yeah, keep an eye on him. Now let's jump to the buys here. So obviously don't be selling Hosking, but there are going to be some guys we do want to sell. We'll talk through buys, holds, sells, the guys we have on our watch list, and the pods as well. So first up, the buys. And look, I know you're looking at Terrell May this week. Is there much more to it than he's fantastically talented, a PPM machine? There's a role in that Roosters pack, and you just want to get him in today?
Yeah, I think we don't have to discuss him too much because he was kind of a buy last week, and the only things that's changed this week is he's even more of a buy. He's a must-have. Like I did a video on Smithies versus May last week. The only information I didn't have was that May was going to be a late switch to the starting team. He played out 45, 50 minutes straight, and then he came back on with like 7-8 minutes to go. So he played like 57, 58 minutes at his PPM. Even if he goes back to the bench, it's clear that Trent Robinson loves him, and he's becoming the leader of that forward pack. And he can play big minutes. He doesn't tire out. He's extremely fit. Just even if he's benched this week, get him in. I don't have him, so he's my number one priority this week.
Yeah, he's a beast. It was 60 points in 60 minutes, which is crazy. Next two guys we have here are Joey Lussick and Mitch Kenny. Now, 2 hookers you can get at about 500K. Which one should you get is a question I was getting a lot today. And it's a hard one to say. Honestly, neither of them are A1 fantasy producers. I've had a look at their numbers, and when they play 60-plus minutes, Lussick averages about 51 points. Kenny averages about 42 points. Saying that, Lussick does have more missed tackles in his game, but I look at the Parramatta forward pack and I think there's probably some more attacking stats on offer for Lussick, just with the way Sean Lane runs close to the line, the way Cardi runs, Junior Paulo, Jermaine Hopgood. There's a lot of really crafty forwards in that Parramatta pack, whereas Mitch Kenny, you're more looking at a reliable base. You're looking at a reliable 40 points where he's going to make his tackles, but he's not going to be that explosive upside that Lussick is going to present you with. So I'm leaning Lussick quite gently. The other part of it is it's a buy round 9 as opposed to a buy round 6 for Mitch Kenny. So really, you can't go wrong with either of these guys. Your pick really should be based on which one do you think will keep 80 minutes for the longest. But I'm leaning towards Lussick in terms of the upside. Are you playing the same way?
I think so. I think Lussick has the chance of more attacking stats. I think Kenny's role is more just distribution, whereas Lussick has been shown to get more involved. He hit 40-20 week 1. He scored a try last week. And exactly like you're saying, he throws a lot of crash balls at the line to like big Parramatta players who they haven't been barging over yet. But like it just takes one barge over to get 7 points of a try assist and line break assist. So I think Lussick too, and I agree on the bite point, especially because if people have like Cleary, Taylor May, those sorts of guys, you just don't want to have 4 players tying up on a bye. So I think Lussick's the better pick. I think if you need to get someone in this week, Lussick's a great bet. But for me, it'll be a next week thing since I have to prioritize May.
Yeah, see, I'm looking at Lussick this week. So do on May. So I'm looking at Finafuyaki and Lussick and banking some cash on those guys. Next guy here, Fogarty. Are you on? Obviously, you're not a big mid-ranger guy, but has Fogarty changed your mind at all in terms of, I guess, cranking out a 58 and a 59 to start?
No, I expected him to have a 55 average this year, to be honest. It's just he was already priced at 46, 47. So, yeah, there's 9 points of value. But, I wanted Cleary and Hines. And, maybe, in hindsight, it was better to probably pick Fogg over Cleary. But, like, in hindsight, if you had said that at the start of the season, you'd be thinking I'm a lunatic, right? So, hindsight's he's like guys like Cleary and Hines will still average 70 by the end of the year. Fogg, I think, will come down to earth. I think Fogg's a real solid pick, but in week 1, they've had 2 blowout wins, right, against easy opposition. Week 1, he had 800 kick meters, which is an insane amount, right? Like even like the top kicking halves last year averaged about 450, 500. So 800 was like an obnoxiously high number where it's probably 5-10 points more than the norm. And then he's kicking a lot of goals. He got an assist last week, just kicking to Hosking and he's catching the air ball. So, I think he's more going to, this week against a big forward pack in the Warriors, it'll be an interesting test for him. He's super stable. I don't think he's going to have many games below 45, but we're seeing 2 really good games for him and he's not even getting over 60 yet. So just a real reliable, he's pretty much the Smithies of the halves kind of thing.
Yeah. If you start with him, you're happy. I wouldn't be breaking the bank to rush him in either. And I downgraded him to oh my god, what's his name? I'm completely blanking on it. Hutchison. I downgraded him to Hutchison late in the preseason to make space for Lukey, which just terrible all around. Last guy I'm going to drop in here is Will Panasini, and he's a bit of a favorite of mine, but at 589k, I think he's a bit of a forgotten man. So we got a 45 average from him to start the year. I really like the Parramatta fixtures over the next 5 to 6 weeks. So a lot of very positive matchups for him. A lot of games where he should dominate his opposite number. And he's come through 2 sort of tougher games in terms of coming up against very physical centers to start the year. But I think he's going to have some big games coming up. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if Panasini pumped out a 50 average. And it's just a question of how long and how much do we trust Ethan Strange and Ben Trebojevic. Now, part of me is leaning towards the fact that, hey, you can get a massive pod by buying a proper center sooner, and you could possibly get 20, 30 points on top of those guys, but you've got to call it right. Because if Ben Trebojevic is playing in the back row, he's pretty reliable for that sort of 35 to 40 points. Ethan Strange, on the other hand, I think he's pretty dodgy. That 44 points, he had a try. He was against the Tigers. He still didn't kick the ball much, and he definitely didn't kick it much in the first week. If he's going to be that sort of 20 scorer without the attacking plays, maybe this is a play we should move on sooner. But, I mean, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I think I agree. I don't think it's strange. You could probably play him a few more weeks. You don't have to have gun centers this early in the season. And that 44 will keep moving you up in terms of value. But, yeah, the quicker you can upgrade these guys, the better. Because, Strange has a bunch of 20s in him. Because that try was like a 15, 20-point try. And you take that out and he's back to 25. So, I think he's going to be a mid-20s average guy next to Fogg. So, upgrade him as soon as you can. But when I say that, I don't mean this week or next week, but keep an eye on Panasini. Panasini marked up really well against Taylor and May. It's Panasini's defensively very sound. They throw the ball right a lot with Moses Cardi there. So, I think Panasini is going to be a gun this year. So, he's a great option.
That's not just our para bias either, speaking. Look, next section here we got is the watch list. So this is kind of interesting, a bit different. We don't always do this segment, but there's a lot of guys to keep an eye on this week. So we've got a few guys here. We've got a few guys on the rise and a few guys on the slide. First one here is Greg Marzu, and he's dropped 70K. He's also out for 4 weeks now. So Greg Marzu, let's say about 6 weeks from now, he is going to be a fantastic value pickup. because he's going to be about 100, 150K beneath his starting price for the year. If the Knights are looking semi-decent, then through the origin period, he might be that guy who steps up. So he's one worth keeping an eye on. Britton Nakora, quite similar. So he's been suspended for 2 games. But again, dropping in value massively. Big attacking upside. Cronulla traditionally do very well through the origin period because none of their players make origin. Nico Hines, for some reason, has never looked at as a starting half. But yeah, I think both those guys are on my watch list. And then Mitch Moses as well. He's not injured right now, but down 60K from the start of the year. He's also one where you could get Mitch Moses for sort of 600 and something K, which is absolutely crazy. Biz, I've sort of covered all 3, but I'm going to throw it to you. Which one of these guys stands out to you the most versus which one do you think is the biggest risk of actually having one of those slide years all year round?
I think the one that I like the most is Moses, because I think Eels are looking pretty good this year, and Moses has been hampered by his kind of niggly injury over the first couple of weeks. But what I like about Moses is he's proven that he's like a high 50s guy year in, year out. So I don't mind getting him in, especially because Cleary you might sell him over Origin, you might not, you might hold him. It's too early to tell what to do with him. But Mazu is the one I think with the biggest risk, because wingers tend to have these crazy years. Like, for example, Nofaluma, Brian To'o, Mazu. There's always one year where tackle busting wingers do like 50 plus.
Yeah.
But it's only ever one season of their careers, maybe 2. So the biggest risk, I just don't know if last year's crazy season is sustainable for Mazu, because it's really difficult to average 55 from the wing. Like, unless you're scoring a double most weeks, even a double for a winger only really gets you 50, 55 a lot of the time. So even like Jermaine Isako last year, like a flash in the pan year where he averaged like 50. So yeah, he's the one with the biggest risk. But, big tackle busting winger, good finisher for Ponga, etc. But Knights haven't looked too good to start the year. So if that continues, yeah, I think definitely Mazu's the dodgiest one.
Yeah, he's messy. Whereas Moses, you could be getting him at a 200K discount on what he could be for the origin period. So yeah, I think there's massive value there too. Isaiah Katoa is one I want to talk about. And I was sort of floating him around in the preseason. I can't claim the move because I really didn't have any confidence at all. But the rationale was that he's obviously very highly rated. The Dolphins obviously think a lot of him. They didn't pick him round 1, so that theory was sort of dashed pretty quickly. But in last week's game, he was next to Nikorima, and even when Nikorima was on the field, Katoa looked like the genuine number 7. And throughout that game, he took on, I think it was about 474 kick meters. So for him, that was about double his average from last year. And he scored 57 fantasy points in a game where they absolutely dominated. So will Katoa be a Cleary 2.0? Absolutely not. He's not that sort of caliber of player. But at a price where he's 421K, he's got the buy this week, so we can think about it. But I look at him, and if he's lining up next to Cody Nikorima again, there could be 100K, 150K, maybe 200K of value in him if he's turning that corner of being a genuine 7 and being that dominant kicker for the Dolphins. Do you see him making that leap? Because, I mean, this is something that we're both big NFL fans, right? So in NFL, they talk a lot about that second-year leap. That's probably where I'm trying to pull this from. What do you think of the theory? Am I reaching here, or is there something in it?
I think in NRL they call it second-year syndrome, because you always suck in your second year. So I'm not sure. I think I'm less interested in like his leap as a player for fantasy, but a leap in his role, right? So last year, as you said, he was a kind of a shared second half. If he's all of a sudden the primary playmaker and he's the one doing most of the kicking, touching the ball more, like he's the one that's like, okay, I'm carrying this team around. Like, this is on me. It's my strategy. Like, then yeah, for sure, 420K. I'll watch one more week. Let's see how it goes. Because Nikorima last year, even when playing with Katoa, kind of dominated. But if that's flipped this year and Katoa's playing as like a genuine halfback and Nikorima's kind of the supportive 6, then yeah, I think Katoa, he's been hyped up a lot. Yeah, he's still really young, so definitely can see a world where he averages 40, 45 plus if he's taken the reins.
Yeah, he's interesting. And then Curran, look, you chucked him on here. I'll throw him to you. What do you think of Josh?
I don't even know if you like. To be honest, we could probably have had him on the buys, because Curran, I'm not sure if he's a watch, because we've seen now that his role is to come on after about 15, 20 minutes and play 60, 65 minutes as a prop. And as a prop, his PPM is superb because you're not only tackling, like at lock, right? You make a lot of tackles. You don't necessarily run the ball as much. Curran is an explosive ball runner. So he's not only tackling in the middle, he's also running like a prop. So 60 minutes of that, he seems safe for a 50-point average. So everyone kind of came off him because he was on the bench. But he is looking good. I also don't think Salmon's really setting the world on fire at lock. I know a lot of Doggies fans aren't too happy with it, but I think they're going to persist with it for at least a couple more weeks, right? But Curran could be a starting lock soon. But yeah, look, I think he's a great buy as well. This year, this is 1 year there's like a bunch of mid-rangers who are doing real well because you got Curran here, who looks like a 50-point player. Obviously, Terrell May, who looks like a 50-plus point player. Lussick could be 50 points. And even Smithies, if he holds that big minute role, like last week, even against the beatdown in the Tigers, he still made 46 points. So there's 4 mid-rangers right there who are all kind of 550K, who could all be 50-plus guys. So yeah, Curran, I think, is a good pick. I don't even know if you have to watch him this week. If you have all those other guys and you want to buy Curran, I think go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I chucked him in here because we were pretty full in the buy list.
Yeah.
But
we're very rigid. We can only have 5. We can only have 5.
We're five sections of 5 players. All right, and I'm very on the point with that. But yeah, no, he could be interesting. I mean, I'm looking at Lussick and Curran, for example. I've got the money to play with either. So yeah, Curran could be interesting. He has had a few injuries that have helped him. So Salmon moved to center in round 1. We had
knocked out.
Yeah. So he was knocked out after 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So those things have helped. But yeah, at the same time, they've brought Curran in. If he's playing that off the bench, big minute prop role, the old Andrew Fafita role, right? Then with a few guys doing that role now, even Junior Paulo's coming off the bench. It seems to be the meta strategy for a lot of these coaches. So yeah, don't be afraid of a guy who's on the bench. Josh Curran could be the one for you. Which is so frustrating because we're all on him preseason. Then we saw the bench thing and just freaked out. Let's go into the hold or sell section. So this is probably a bit of a debate, and I think we'll agree with most of these, but there might be a few that we nudge on. Tupanua first, and from the outside looking in, I was moderately high on Tupanua in the preseason. I subbed him out about 20 minutes before their game, just because I had a last-minute look at his numbers, and it was that sort of mid-45s average, which there's nothing wrong with that sort of mid-45s average, but I sort of looked at that and had to think about his form and had to think, he needed to play 80 minutes for that to be a good role. After round 1, it looked like he might be playing 80 minutes. So you were smart to hold on to him to see this week. But with that 60-minute role, it's a 30 to 35 average. Maybe it changes with Gus Crichton coming in and Gus plays in the middle. Can you afford to wait and make that gamble is the question. And for me, the answer is probably no. Like 408K, it's not expensive, but it just feels like dead money to me. Are you leaning the same way?
Yeah, I'm trading him out. I think, I didn't ask last week, the Maybest with his video. I talked about the Roosters rotation. It was 50-50 if you got 60 minutes or 80 minutes, because when Wong came back on, it was either for Satili or Butcher. So 50-50, and, it was Satili. So I think it's the same thing this week, because I think Butcher is going to be an 80-minute guy. And I think Angus will play some edge. So, I don't think he's safe for... and I don't think Wong's going to be out of the team long, right? Like, I'm actually surprised Wong's been dropped because he looked pretty good. Like, I know he made some errors last week, but he was doing a lot of defense, a lot of cleanup work. Like, you saw his PPM. Yeah, like he was, they kind of gave him, he was named in the edge, but they kind of gave him a roaming role to just play defense. Like, he was tackling at times on his side. He was making tackles with Tupano on the other side and in the middle. So, that was an interesting one for me. But yeah, I think you can probably sell him this week. There's a chance he plays 80 minutes, but I'm not big on it. And you're right. Like, a guy with his PPM has to play 80 to be relevant.
Yeah, and they've got to be firing, which without Luke Keary as well, it's a bit dodgy. McInnes is the next one here. McInnes, we weren't super hot on him preseason, but I can totally understand the rationale of people who did go for him. At this stage, if you've got McInnes and it's round 3, the minutes are trending in the right direction. I would, if I had him, I'd probably be a bit stubborn about it and just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to hang on. And if he turns it around, if he gets 50 minutes, 55, 60 minutes, you're looking at a 50 to 60 average, and you're basically looking at Terrell May, right? Who everyone is clamoring to buy in right now. So I think there's a lot of upside there. And I know we were chatting before. I might let you cover this, but even the injury to the suspension to Nakora could benefit him as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think the thing is, Nakora is an 80-minute player, whereas I don't know if Jack Williams will be. Jack Williams has been really good for them this year, playing in the middle rotation for McInnes. Like, the reason McInnes is playing lower minutes is because of Jack Williams. They bring him on, and he's playing really well, and they're finding it hard to bring him off. So now that he's not competing with McInnes anymore, I think you could see a potential 10-minute bump in McInnes' minutes. And we've seen his PPM; it's monstrous. So
10 minutes,
exactly like you said.
He's good.
Yeah, exactly. So I would hold this week for sure, just because, without Jack Williams, like, it's not like Billy Burns is going to steal those McInnes minutes.
No,
I would be holding McInnes this week.
Yeah, good move. If anyone has him still, then yeah, rock solid. And then Hutch and Flano, I've put them together. Hutch is a bit over 400k, Flano's a bit under 400k. Honestly, they're both flops in terms of what they've done for fantasy in the half spot. I have both of them, and I hate looking at them. Flano, fantasy, man. Look at it. The Talaus of the halves. They're terrible to look at. Oh, so Flano, it just sort of feels like he's not playing bad necessarily for the Dragons, but it just feels like every time he has a chance to score fantasy points, he'll just drop the ball or he'll pass it 5 meters before the line, or he just feels like that guy who is he's kind of like Isaiah Katoa last year. Yeah. And then Hutchison, the Dogs are just dreadful this year. So I mean, he plays a bit tougher, but where's the upside? What's going to happen? Even Matt Burton's looking bad in that Dogs team.
Yeah, I mean, with Flano, like, I'm not as worried because he's cheaper. But I think with Flano's role, like, it's a 25, 30-point role. He made 21 tackles, I think, last week. But the thing is, his primary role is to dump the ball off to Sully, Sua, to throw it to Hunt. Like, he's not really he scored a try week 1. So I'm less worried about Flano. I think you could wait a week on him. With Hutch, I think I'll keep him this week, just given that he's got the Titans. So if he's going to score, this is the week to do it. And we're lucky that Fafita's not in, because I'm pretty sure Fafita would be running at Hutch. Like, they play.
We had 5 missed tackles last week.
Yeah, so Hutch is a pretty good defender. Like, the reason he's keeping that spot over Sexton is he's a big body and he can tackle. And the reason he was making a lot of those misses was he's getting good first contact, chopping someone down. He had some great try-saving tackles last week. But look, the positives for Hutch is 25 tackles, both games, 50, 60 meters. Last week, he had 177 kick meters. So his base stats were there. So last week, Hutchinson had minus 14 in demerits. He's obviously going to always have demerits, but minus 14 becomes like minus 6. It's a 37-point score. So I think Hutch is still okay. I'm going to keep Hutch this week, give him one more roll of the dice against the Titans. And if it fails, look, I just get in a Lussick or someone next week.
I'm the exact same as you. So I've dumped Flano this week. I'm getting sick of watching him play footy. I don't want to watch Dragons play anymore. And he was the one reason I was watching. So if I can just turn the Dragons game off, I'm pretty happy. Hutch, the Dogs are actually kind of interesting to me to watch. And yeah, you're right. I think he will fluke some attacking plays. He always did that at the Roosters. And the Titans are a matchup where he could do that. Titans will be better this week, though. They've got Kieran Foran back. Yeah. Actually, on that game, I'm probably starting Keeney over Jamin Salmon. I'm probably starting Keeney over Sam Hughes, over Hutchison. Maybe not Hutchison, but I'm actually pretty confident Keeney's going to have a pretty good game in that one as well.
Agree. But like, just kind of like just on that, like the matchups. To be completely fair on the Bulldogs players, like the Eels and Sharks first 2 games, not easy by any means. Like, they're both 2 teams that are playing well. Like, for example, the Eels obviously won handsomely week 1, and even week 2 against Penrith, it was a dogfight. Like, it could have gone either way. Obviously as a Parramatta fan, I hate losing, but it was one of the cases where if we didn't lose our center early in the game, pretty much Penrith killed us down that side the rest of the game.
Oh, I think we won the forward battle. 100%.
Yeah, like I thought. I think
what's their weakness? It's through the middle.
Yeah, so. And the Sharks as well. Like, they went to New Zealand and beat them after. Like, they're a good team. Like, the Sharks had a down year last year, but on paper, I think Dogs have had a tough 2 games. Like, I don't think they're as bad as the 2 games suggest. I think they'll definitely pick up as the season goes on, as the combinations develop. So that's why I'm a bit more bullish on Hutch. But it's also a question of how long he keeps the spot. But Serraldo looks like he wants to kind of keep the same team to build chemistry over the next few weeks. So let's see how it goes.
Well, this is the week for it to happen, right? Whereas Flano, they could win by 60 and
He's
he
25.
sort of scored 23 points with 2 tries kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then we got Hosking next. And look, we talked about him already, but hold him for one more week is the answer we've both got here. Again, where you can probably pick up the rationale of sort of how we're thinking about these things. So we like the moves that will give you a chance to win. So when we talk about McInnes, you have a chance that he has big minutes. Talk about Hutch v. Flano. Hutch has a chance to fluke it. Flano doesn't really have a chance. So even though Flano is cheaper, he's also not at the upside. With a Hosking, there's a chance that he comes in just before the game and starts and goes back to what he is. There's also a chance that maybe Elliot Whitehead gets hurt in this game and you go back to Hosking games with 80 minutes. So, that's kind of what we're playing towards. We're trying to find the trades that are a bit safer, but also give you the chance at a big win. So with Hosking, he's a hold. And then the guns, I'll fire through a few names at you, man. Actually,
can I do the guns because they're the ones that are failing for me?
Yeah, man. Yeah, hit them up.
Honestly, Harry Grant averaged 49 in both games or something. We've known Harry Grant. Every year he plays 80 minutes. He's like a 60-point guy. Hold faith. He's doing a lot of tackling, but their tackling stats haven't come yet. They've got the Knights this week. I think the Knights have a lot of forwards who can get a bit loose in the middle and miss tackles. Harry Grant, big game. Ponga in my team. He's a bit more iffy because the Knights look real bad, but Ponga's Ponga. Like he's played like 100 games at fullback, maybe more, and his career average at fullback is 54. So don't worry about him. You got him for a reason. And Knights, I think adding Cogger, I don't think Cogger's the savior, but I think hopefully there's some change. They just need to get Ponga the ball more. He's not getting it enough, and maybe it's a bit of lack of match fitness. I know he's got the Storm this week, but he also put up a clinic against the Storm starters in the first half of the preseason game where he scored 30 in the first half. To be honest, Ponga's actually been at 25 to 30 in the first half of both games, and he's dropped off in the second half. So it's not like he's completely dishing out Garv. He just needs to chain it together, stick with him. If he fails again, then you can reevaluate. Cleary, obviously Cleary started the season very slow. Don't worry, it's Cleary. He's just going to average 70. He starts slow. Even last year, he all of a sudden just pops up for 100, and that 60 average becomes 70 average. Hold Cleary. Who are the other guns that are failing? I think they're the three main dodgy ones.
Not Isaiah Yo.
Not Isaiah Yo. Hines looks pretty solid after last week. Haas is kicking on.
Joey Manu.
Tommy Turbo. Tommy Turbo, he's only priced at high 40s, and he's giving you a 50 average, so don't panic about him. He looks crisp as hell, so keep him there. There's going to be one game he blows out for 80 to 100 points. Yeah, so guns, you got them for a reason. I traded out Murray last week just because I needed to rebalance my team, and he was playing edge. He's back in middle now, so he's going to be back to the 60-point guy. So I can't do much about it, but I knew that was probably going to happen. So just hold guns wherever you can, unless you really, really have to lose them.
Completely agree. And then I got another question for you on the guns. So obviously Reece Walsh, Latrell Mitchell, more attacking focused guns. Both of them let the other one score a try in their game. Do you think that was an intentional thing to preserve their fantasy scores, or what do you think was going on there?
For sure. They're hey, bro, half time, let me score one. My fantasy points are down this year or this half. And then,
Mate, they dead set did let each other walk in too. That Reece Walsh play, he's just staring down his defenders on the side.
Honestly.
That's what's happening. I'm telling you, that's what's happening. All right, let's go with the pods. And these are some guys where if you're on these guys, you are doing something very different to the rest of the crowd. So bravo to you. Let us know in the comments, actually, if you have any of these players, because respect to you if you do. First one is Adam Elliott, and he scored 88 points last week. So he had a game where he scored 2 tries. And when you're looking at a guy like Adam Elliott, he can score 2 tries. All right, see you, Biz. He can score 2 tries.
I'm still here. I scored a balance.
You're all good, man. You're all good. But he's a guy who can score 2 tries at any given time. He's just an absolute machine. So when I'm looking at Elliott, I think, look, 639K, it's not crazy value, but if he's going to get 70 minutes, then there's a potential chance that he does do that. And I was looking at their rotations, right? And for last week, you had Jacob Safidi and Dan Safidi. sharing minutes. You have Leo Thompson and Jack Hetherington sharing minutes. You have Jaden Brayley coming off the bench this week for Phoenix Crossland. And then you have someone else on the bench as well. Someone really low minutes sort of there that would maybe take 10, 20 minutes. So there's a very good chance that Adam Elliott becomes that 70-minute guy. And if he does that, he's probably value at that price.
Yeah, I mean, don't expect a double every week, but I think he's a bit of value. Do I love it at 6.39? Like, even if he's getting 70 minutes, I prefer some of the guys we mentioned before, like Curran, May, Smithies, maybe, and the Lussick, etc. So, but yeah, he's interesting.
Big pod. Coruscant and Papali'i, next two guys on the Tigers side of things. The cool thing about buying Tigers players is basically no one started with them. So you can actually get ahead of the crowd if you think that any of these Tigers players are going to do something, which, in real life, it's probably not going to happen, but for fantasy, it might. For Coruscant, he was crushing it. So Lockie, who does some writing on the Casual Athlete blog, he got Coruscant in. I think it was 47 points at halftime, ended up on 58 points at full time. So he had a tale of two halves, but at 627K, pretty good value. Papali'i, I know he's a favorite of yours, Biz. Are you eyeing him off at 723K? Do you think something happens there or no way?
I just don't think he's the same player at the Tigers. You don't just lose the talent. I just don't think the Tigers use him as efficiently as they should. Even last week, he, not a huge score, but with a lot of attacking stats. Yeah, I need to see him go back to the Eels days where he'd get 180, 200 meters a game to be interested, I think, at his price.
God, he was good at Parramatta. We'll bring him back one day. Bring him back. We don't need him though right now, but yeah. And then, all right, let's throw it to Selwyn Cobbo, 596K. I made a pod team in the preseason, and he's one of the centers in that team. So he's sitting down there next to Taylor May, which has been a pretty cool start for that team. Cobbo, it's a weird one for fantasy. So, 596K is not a discount for Cobbo. I would be taking Penasini over Cobbo so quickly and every single time just for the base stats. But a guy like Cobbo, he can crank out a massive score. So he can go out there and he can score you 74 points like he did last week. He's the kind of player who could potentially even go 100 plus in the right matchup as well, because we haven't really seen Brisbane completely firing. And when we see that and Cobbo gets some of that open field, he's the kind of guy who could score 3, 4, 5 tries in a game as a center, which is just crazy, especially with how involved he is. So, yeah, if you want a big pod and you're a bit silly with your team, Cobbo, there's a world where Cobbo is actually one of the best centers in the game.
Yeah, I think Cobbo has enough big games in him to average out his low games, and he could be a 45 plus guy. He's already pretty expensive was the problem, because he actually did pretty well from the wing. It's not a story where he's trash at wing and he's got 25 average, and then at center you could expect 45. He was already priced pretty high, but the dual position is also really nice. Obviously, we'll play Origin, but I think you could do a lot worse than him. Would I buy him now? Probably not. But I know if you started with him, you're doing great. But yeah, I think he's the guy who could easily go 75, 35, 70, 30, 30,
yeah.
70. So, yeah.
And then a more consistent guy here, mate, Eisenhuth, 488K. I just see your eyes light up with mediocrity. All right, Gundy ahead. How far down your list of trade-ins is Eisenhuth? Is he in the top 20, in the top 50?
Top 20, yeah. He's probably hovering around the 10 mark, I'd say, because he's not bad. High PPM in the middle, and Dragons need to learn to play defense, clearly, because they took 38 points against them against the Dolphins. Aren't a noted attacking juggernaut, but
it's a record-winning win for them.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Eisenhuth. I think the only problem is they've actually got a lot of middles. They've actually their forwards. They've just got a lot of them. Are they superb? I don't know. Maybe not. But they've just got a lot of them, right? They've got JDB big minutes, Laurie big minutes, RFM now who plays middle and edge. Yeah, Leilua who'll occupy big minutes on an edge. Sewer who's actually looked good for them, 80 minutes on an edge. And then all the prop kind of guys on the bench as well. So it's tricky. So if you believe in the minutes, I think he's a good pick. He showed a high PPM in the middle.
It's a hard one because Jack DeBellin's playing small minutes so far this year, which
Yeah.
was the risk with the new coach. And we got Blake Laurie was missing round 1. We have Francis Molo missing for this one. It's pretty dodgy, but he's a bit of a beast. He's basically playing, I think it's a bit over a point a minute for him. So pretty juicy. And then the cheapies here. These cheapies, they're not bad. They're not bad. It gets worse as you go down the list. Fina Fuyaki is the first one here. He scored 38 points in about 55 minutes last week. That's probably what you can expect from him going forward. 35 points in 58 minutes or something like that. Or 38?
Yeah, it's 38 and 55, yeah.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
So you could expect that from him. I think you got to be ready for the fact that he's going to have a game where he scores you 20.
Yeah.
Because he's not that massive defensive motor. But he also has the offensive upside, particularly with the matchups the Cowboys have to score a try or to score 2 tries. So he's basically Halem Lukey, but
yeah, I was going to say he's like Lukey. Like he's got the 15-point game in him, but he also has got a 50-point game in him. So he's probably a bit worse than Luke. I think Lukey is a bit more stable, but like similar flaws, potential same ceiling. I don't know.
So the Edric Lee of back rowers, basicay, is what you're saying.
Talau. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. We're gonna stop doing that. I love it. But like I think he's definitely one. Like the thing is, he's scored 38 now, so his break even's pretty low. So I think you have to try and get on as quick as you can before he gets. If he has another 40-point game, he could be through 50k, which will be
it's 6 to 8 weeks as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. And the thing is, he's pretty stable in that position because they want a reason to keep him. Like they're trying to fend people off for his signature. He hasn't signed with someone else already, has he? Like I know a lot of people are lining him off, but they want him to be
talk, but no, I don't think he's signed anywhere. They've got Guzetsky on the bench, which does worry me a little bit because he'll play some minutes.
Yeah. I honestly think it's a 1-for-1 swap with Lukey. He'll play 55, 60 minutes. Yeah, he's not playing 80. Like I highly doubt he plays 80, but at his price, that's fine. I think Galvin is a must-have though. He was like their best player as an 18-year-old. It's crazy, but all the raps were legit. He looked great. Scored 43. He just runs the ball. He had 180 meters for a rookie half at 18 years old. That's insane.
Genuine, dominant half, mate. But he does have a bit of a challenge this week because you've got Sullivan last week versus Caesar next to him this week, right?
I don't think it was the dominant half in terms of kicking. He didn't kick that much, but he ran the ball a lot. That's what I love to see. Like he's a guy I'm plugging in my 17 every week now. Like as long as he keeps that starting spot, like get him in. He's a must-have. Don't question this one. I don't think he's losing his spot. He was the best player in the park last week.
See, to me, when I'm throwing dominant around there, not doing all the kicking, but I think he will go into most of that as well.
Absolutely.
I'm more saying like when there was a chance to score a try, when there was a chance to make a big attacking play, he was the guy who wanted the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and they gave it to him.
He made mistakes. The head didn't go down. Like he knows. He's coming to this team. He's like, I'm not going to make us premiership winners this year.
Yeah.
Right? Exact same energy as look, I don't want to compare him to Cleary too much, but their vibes are kind of similar. And I'm with you. Galvin, I've moved him into my starting side. Yeah. And Hutchinson and Flanagan are both get out of here, you scumbags. Like
Look, no, I think Galvin's he's him. So get him in.
He's him. Yep. Yeah, you gotta have Galvin. Muleisen next. So he's come in for Little this week. Look, 230k starting at hooker.
No, isn't
Little?
No, Marchke's starting at hooker. Mulhausen still
Marchke starting.
I think it's Marchke starting. Yeah.
All right. They got these guys.
I mean, it just goes to show neither of them, I think, are great picks. Little's concussed, right?
I think. Yeah. All right. Well, maybe
it's the same argument, even if he's starting. Little's only 1 week concussion. Little's actually been really good to start the year. I think they're both 1 week rentals. Even if it's to be honest, he could. I suspect that Connor Mulhausen might actually start at hooker because Jesse Marski is actually at 5'8". So
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
they could swap on game day. So yeah, but either way, they're both at 230k. Both might be good for 1 week only.
Yeah, I mean, Little does have an injury in him, so you can make that call and try and stick with it, especially if you have Little in your team.
Yeah,
a bit of a handcuff, but no, I agree with you. It's not that inspiring. Fayatape, so a lot of people are talking about him as a must-have because Stafford Toe is out for 6 to 8 weeks. It's not the case. Brent Naden comes back in round 4.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to burst the bubble,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, this 15-point-a-week scorer is not going to last as long as you were hoping.
Well,
The other side is the scoring wasn't great. I think he's been a 30 to 40 average in reserve grade.
Yeah.
So it's just not. There's nothing to be excited about there.
Yeah, I think to be honest, 35 average, in first grade as a center at base price is pretty good. But I think you definitely watch him this week, and if he keeps the spot over Naden next week, like he's not making much money this week, right? Because he's got a 15 in his books. You can even if he scores 50 this week, he's probably going up to 250k, 260 maybe. I don't know if that maths is right, but something like that. Yeah, and cash someone out to him next week if Naden's reserve grade and he keeps a spot. So yeah,
I just don't see it converting, man. Like if you've got a 30 to 40 average in reserve grade, you can increase that going into first grade as a forward. A lot of time, outside backs, it's harder, and you're an outside back at the Tigers, so it's sort of the hardest it can possibly be.
Yeah, but at
so
230k, like he's not a bad cash out in a center depth kind of role if he keeps a spot.
If he keeps,
I don't expect much. Yeah, I think there's a lot of risk.
I'd rather wait.
Yeah, you definitely do not get in this. I reckon, but wait, he's kind of a watch cheapie.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if he keeps the spot, unless he's dynamic, I'm not going to do it.
I mean, he's meant to be. They've got wraps on the kid, so let's see. Last week, not the best start, but let's see how it goes.
Yeah,
he was really good for them in the preseason. So
he could prove us wrong. I'd rather get Tommy Talau though, and just hope he gets back into the team. But you can look at this. And then last one here is Sandon Smith. Sandon Smith, only throwing him into this list for consideration. So Luke Keary copped a concussion. He has had some terrible concussion issues and absolutely sucks because he's an absolute weapon of a player. But it does mean that Sandon Smith, who was playing off the bench the first 2 rounds and has dropped in cash, might get that starting spot. Now, he's named to start this week. If he plays 1 week, it's not that important. But with a high break-even this week, you could watch him this week, see how Keary's tracking. If Keary's out for a while, then Sandon Smith is going to be a guy that we all will be buying. If Keary's back next week, then you don't have to worry about this. But just something worth keeping an eye on, because I think Sandon Smith, in terms of his fantasy production when he starts at half, is a much better player than Flanagan or Hutchison.
Yeah, Sandon showed that last year when he was playing the halves. He was like a 40-plus kind of guy, so really good. And yeah, I think there's a chance that with Keary's age and concussion history, maybe they just ice him for a few weeks. But yeah, I doubt it, but it's definitely worth keeping an eye on because they have done it before where they've iced him for long periods after a concussion. So it could be a great smoky bet.
Beauty. I mean, that is buys, holds, sells, pods, cheapies, watch list. It's a big episode this week. A lot of guys want to talk about.
A lot of guys. Anyway, hopefully this time next week when I come on, I can say I'm not, ranked so poorly.
I reckon you'll halve your rank this week. That's my
call. I want to jump in the top 10K this week. Let's go.
All right, you go top 10K. I want top 1K.
Yeah, we'll get
the Talau League.
Yeah, let's go. People can't take me seriously when I'm ranked this low, so I've got to get my cred back up, And
I've got to get this up. I've got to grab the league as well. Just show. So where have we got? Leagues. Let's grab the casual athlete league. I'm in way too many leagues as well.
Yeah.
But I put a shout out on Instagram. But here are the top 10 in the league right now.
Love it. Let's go.
Guys are killing it. Look, 980 for Jack.
That's nonsense. Who's in his team? Had to have Husky.
Let's have a look.
Big Jackie.
We should do a separate video on this.
Yeah, we should. Husking, Elliot. Love it. Pappenhausen.
Elliot, yeah. Jake Safidi. Yeah, he's moved quickly. He's got the Cleary and Hines combo like you.
Yep. Yeah, he's doing a lot better than me, that's for sure.
He didn't start Galvin, though. Show the faith, mate. Danny Levi. Ugh, gross.
Dude, I'm really worried about Levi when he's not scoring tries, He's scoring 10-point, 20-point tries, only to end on a 28 average. Ugh.
Well, you got a try. You got 21 tackles.
This week, I think he'll tackle a lot more if Warriors play up the middle. So it'll be.
Problem is,
he'll probably get a lot more missed tackles as well. Yeah, I can't imagine Levi trying to tackle for Fanua Blake.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough ask. Anyway, look, that is that's buy, hold, sell, guys. With a little detour at the end. Yeah, always a pleasure to jump on, you guys. Thanks for joining, Biz. Hopefully a better ranking for you next week, mate.
For sure. Cross my fingers.
See you, bro.